You know what they say about first impressions? Well, whoever said that clearly never met an alien who thought humans were basically space cockroaches with delusions of grandeur. My name is Jake Martinez, and I fix things for a living. Specifically, I fix things on Nexus Station, which is basically the galaxy's biggest shopping mall, except instead of overpriced coffee and teenagers loitering around, we have 17 different species trying not to kill each other while conducting interstellar commerce. It's about as fun as it sounds. The thing about being human on a space station is that you're automatically at the bottom of the food chain. We're the new kids on the galactic block, and apparently our reputation precedes us. Something about being a violent, primitive species that somehow stumbled into space travel. Honestly, they're not entirely wrong, but I take offense to the primitive part. I mean, have you seen what we did with duct tape? That's advanced engineering right there. So there I was, minding my own business in Bay 7, trying to convince a Thrixian cargo loader that percussive maintenance was a legitimate repair technique, when she walked in. And by walked, I mean strutted like she owned the place and was personally offended by its existence. Zara Vex. 6 feet of feathered attitude wrapped in a maintenance jumpsuit that somehow looked like formal wear on her. The klaxon species always looked like someone crossed a hawk with a supermodel and gave the result an engineering degree. Sharp features, golden eyes that could cut glass, and feathers that shifted color based on mood. Right now, they were displaying what I like to call barely contained homicidal annoyance. You, she said, pointing at me with one perfectly manicured talon, are in my workspace. I looked around the bay, then back at her. Funny, the work order says Bay 7 is assigned to Martinez. That's me. Unless there's another Martinez around here, in which case we should probably have a talk about identity theft. Her feathers darkened to a lovely shade of irritated purple. There has been a mistake. I requested this bay specifically for my project, and I've been assigned this bay for the past 3 months. But hey, maybe we can share? I promise I won't touch your shiny alien technology without permission. The look she gave me could have powered a small spacecraft. I do not work with humans. Well, that's unfortunate, because this human is the only certified repair technician available for the next 6 hours. Unless you want to explain to Station Commander why the Vortilian trade convoy is sitting in space with a broken docking clamp. That's when the universe decided to have a sense of humor. Behind Zara, a massive piece of klaxon engineering equipment let out a sound that roughly translated to, "I'm about to become very expensive scrap metal." Sparks flew, smoke billowed, and somewhere in the distance, an alarm started wailing. Zara spun around, her golden eyes wide with what I recognized as the universal expression of, "Oh no, my career is about to end in spectacular fashion." "The quantum flux inhibitor," she whispered, which I assumed was klaxon for "I'm so fired." I grabbed my toolkit and hobbled over to take a look. Yeah, hobbled. I've got a prosthetic leg. Lost the original in a shuttle accident 5 years ago. The replacement is top-of-the-line human engineering, which means it works perfectly about 90% of the time and makes interesting clicking noises the other 10%. "So," I said, studying the smoking alien contraption, "want to tell me what this thing is supposed to do before it turns us both into constituent atoms?" Zara looked at me like I'd just suggested we paint the station hot pink. "You cannot possibly understand klaxon technology." "Try me. I've got a degree in mechanical engineering and a lifetime of experience making things work that probably shouldn't. Plus, I'm pretty sure those are standard fusion couplings under all the fancy alien aesthetic." For a moment I thought she might actually ask for help. Then her feathers puffed up in what I'd learned was the klaxon equivalent of a defensive posture. "I will handle this myself." "Sure," I said, stepping back. "Just try not to take out the entire station when it goes critical in about 3 minutes." Her feathers went from purple to a rather alarming shade of red. You know what's funny about pride? It's remarkably similar to stupidity, except pride usually has better plumage. Zara spent the next 20 minutes trying to fix her quantum flux inhibitor while I pretended to work on the cargo loader, and definitely wasn't timing how long it would take for her to swallow that pride and ask for help. 19 minutes, 43 seconds, if you're keeping track. Human, she said, and I could practically hear her dignity dying a slow, painful death. Jake, I corrected, not looking up from my work. My name is Jake. I know it's only got one syllable, but I'm confident your advanced alien brain can handle it. Her feathers did this interesting shimmer thing that I was beginning to recognize as barely contained rage. Jake, I require your assistance. Well, look at that. The universe is full of surprises. I set down my tools and made my way over to her machine. What exactly does this thing do, anyway? It regulates quantum field fluctuations in hyperspace tunnels, she said, like that explained everything. Ah, of course. And here I thought it was just a really expensive way to make pretty lights. I started tracing the power conduits with my scanner. So what happened? Did you try turning it off and on again? The look she gave me could have melted hull plating. This is advanced Klaxon engineering, not some primitive human device. Right, forgot. Advanced alien technology never has simple solutions. I found the problem almost immediately. Well, here's your issue. This coupling here is designed for a constant power flow, but you're feeding it intermittent bursts. The quantum matrix is destabilizing because it can't maintain coherence. Zara stared at me like I'd just performed magic. How did you? That diagnostic should have taken hours. Sometimes the old-fashioned approach works better than overcomplicating things. I started making adjustments to the power flow regulators. Your species has this interesting habit of engineering things to be as complex as possible. It's impressive, sure, but it also means there are more things that can go wrong. Klaxon engineering is the most advanced in the galaxy, she said, but there was less conviction in her voice than before. I'm sure it is. But advanced doesn't always mean better. Sometimes it just means more expensive to fix. I finished the adjustment and stepped back. Try it now. She activated the device, and instead of exploding in a spectacular display of alien technology gone wrong, it hummed to life with a pleasant blue glow. The quantum flux inhibitor was now successfully inhibiting flux, or whatever it was supposed to do. Zara stared at the functioning device, then at me, then back at the device. How did you? Ooh. Trade secret, I said, packing up my tools. But here's a free tip. Next time you're working with intermittent power sources, try using a buffer capacitor to smooth out the fluctuations. Revolutionary concept, I know. For a moment I thought she might actually thank me. Instead, she straightened up and tried to look dignified. Your assistance was adequate. High praise from someone who didn't want to work with humans 5 minutes ago. I still do not, she said quickly. This was merely a temporary necessity. That's when Station Commander Torres's voice crackled over the comm system. All personnel, we have a code yellow in Section C. Atmospheric recycling system is experiencing cascading failures. All available technicians report to Emergency Bay 4 immediately. Zara and I looked at each other. A code yellow meant the station's life support was failing, which meant everyone on board had about 6 hours to fix it or start looking for a new place to live. Preferably one with breathable atmosphere. I suppose, Zara said slowly, that working together temporarily would be acceptable. Wow, don't let all that enthusiasm overwhelm you, I said, grabbing my emergency kit. Come on, let's go save some lives. Try to keep up, for you. We made our way to Emergency Bay 4, where controlled chaos was in full swing. Torres, a grizzled veteran who'd been running stations since before I was born, was coordinating repair teams with the efficiency of someone who'd dealt with this kind of crisis before. Martinez, he called out when he saw me. Thank God, we've got a problem. The main atmospheric processor is down and the backup systems are failing one by one. We need someone who can think outside the box. What about the Vortilian engineers? I asked. They're supposed to be experts at this kind of thing. They're working on it, but their solutions are all by the book. We need someone who can jury-rig a fix that'll hold until we can get proper replacement parts. I looked around the bay at the assembled repair teams. Lots of advanced alien technology, lots of very concerned-looking technicians, and one human with a prosthetic leg who specialized in making things work when they shouldn't. Right, I said. What's the situation? Torres pulled up a holographic display showing the station's atmospheric systems. Red warning lights were blinking everywhere like a very expensive Christmas tree. The main processor took a hit from a power surge, fried the primary control circuits. The backup systems are compensating, but they're not designed to handle the full load. We've got maybe 4 hours before atmospheric pressure drops below safe levels. And the Vortilian solution? Replace the entire control matrix. Problem is, the nearest replacement parts are 3 days away. I studied the display, my brain already working through possible solutions. What about rerouting the atmospheric flow through the cargo bay ventilation systems? Considered it. Not enough capacity. Emergency life support pods. We've got maybe 200 pods. Station population is over 3,000. Zara, who'd been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. What if we modified the quantum flux inhibitor to regulate atmospheric pressure instead of hyperspace fields? Both Torres and I turned to look at her. That's actually not a terrible idea, I said slowly. The underlying principles are similar. Question is, do we have enough of them to cover the entire station? There are 7 Klaxon ships docked, Zara said. Each carries a backup flux inhibitor. If we network them together, we could create a distributed atmospheric control system. I finished. It's crazy enough that it might actually work. Torres looked between us like we'd just suggested using spit and wishes to fix the station. You're talking about jury-rigging alien technology to perform a function it was never designed for. Yeah, I said. It's called engineering. The thing about emergency repairs is that they never go according to plan. It's like the universe has a sense of humor, and that sense of humor involves making simple problems incredibly complicated at the worst possible moments. We'd been working for 2 hours, networking Klaxon flux inhibitors into a makeshift atmospheric control system, when everything decided to go sideways. And by sideways, I mean the station's artificial gravity fluctuated, the emergency lighting started strobing, and somewhere in the distance, something that sounded expensive exploded. That's not good, I said, which is engineer speak for we're all going to die. The power grid is destabilizing, Zara announced, studying her readings. The additional load from our improvised system is causing cascading failures. So we're trying to save the station's atmosphere by accidentally destroying its power systems, I said. That's what I call a lateral solution. Commander Torres's voice crackled over the comm, barely audible through the static. All teams, we have a new problem. The power fluctuations have triggered emergency lockdowns in sections D through G. We've got 47 people trapped in those sections, and the lockdown doors aren't responding to override commands. I looked at Zara. Please tell me you have some advanced alien solution for this. Klaxon technology does not typically account for primitive human engineering failures, she said, but I could see the worry in her golden eyes. Right, so it's up to primitive human engineering to fix primitive human engineering. Makes sense. I pulled up the station schematics on my tablet. The lockdown doors are controlled by isolated security circuits. If the main computer can't override them, we'll have to do it manually. Manually how? Someone needs to crawl through the maintenance tunnels and physically reset the door controllers. I studied the schematics, tracing the route from our current position to the locked sections. It's not going to be fun. The tunnels are narrow, there's no artificial gravity in there, and if the power fails while someone's inside, they would be trapped, Zara finished. Exactly. But it's either that or we let 47 people suffocate while we work on the atmospheric problem. I was already suiting up in emergency gear when I realized Zara was doing the same. What are you doing? Ming. Coming with you, obviously. No, you're not. You're needed here to monitor the flux inhibitor network. If that fails while we're playing Tunnel Rat, everyone dies. The network is stable for now, and you will need assistance navigating the klaxon sections of the maintenance system. I wanted to argue, but she had a point. The station was a hodgepodge of different technologies, and the klaxon sections used completely different interfaces than the human ones. Plus, if I was being honest, I could use the backup. My prosthetic leg wasn't exactly designed for crawling through zero-gravity maintenance tunnels. Fine, I said. But if we get stuck in there, I'm blaming you. Acceptable, she said, and for the first time since I'd met her, she almost smiled. The maintenance tunnels were exactly as unpleasant as I'd expected. Narrow, dark, filled with exposed conduits and sharp edges, and completely without artificial gravity. I pulled myself along using handholds while my prosthetic leg made interesting clicking noises that echoed off the tunnel walls. Your mechanical limb is quite loud, Zara observed from behind me. Yeah, well, it wasn't designed for stealth operations. It was designed to let me walk without falling over most of the time. You seem remarkably unconcerned about your physical limitations. I paused in my crawling to look back at her. What's to be concerned about? I lost a leg, I got a new one. It's not perfect, but it works. Sometimes that's enough. Something in her expression shifted, but before I could figure out what, the tunnel lurched as another power fluctuation hit the station. Emergency lighting flickered, and somewhere behind us, something that sounded like a very expensive piece of equipment decided to stop working. We need to move faster, I said. We reached the first door controller after what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. The access panel was located in a particularly cramped junction where 3 tunnels met, and getting to it required contorting into positions that human bodies weren't designed for. I can't reach it, I said, stretched out as far as I could go. The angle's all wrong. Allow me, Zara said, and somehow managed to slip past me in the confined space. Her natural flexibility and lighter bone structure made her much better suited for this kind of work. She opened the access panel and started working on the door controls. The circuit board is damaged, she said. I can repair it, but it will take time. How much time? Perhaps 10 minutes. That's when the tunnel lights went out completely, plunging us into absolute darkness. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light, but the message was clear. The station's power grid was failing faster than we'd anticipated. Change of plans, I said. We do this the fast way. What is the fast way? I pulled out my plasma cutter and started carefully slicing through the door controller's casing. We bypassed the damaged circuits entirely and wired the doors directly to emergency power. That is not how the system was designed to work. Yeah, well, the system wasn't designed to save 47 people trapped in a failing space station either. Sometimes you have to improvise. I finished the bypass and the door controller came to life. Through the tunnel walls, we could hear the heavy lockdown doors grinding open. 47 people were no longer trapped. Impressive, Zara said, and I thought I detected a note of genuine respect in her voice. 1 down, 6 to go, I said. Think you can keep up? We moved through the tunnels with increasing urgency as the station's condition deteriorated around us. Each door controller required a different approach, and I found myself relying more and more on Zara's technical expertise and her ability to navigate the cramped spaces. It was at the 4th door that disaster struck. I was working on a particularly stubborn circuit board when the tunnel suddenly lurched violently. The plasma cutter slipped from my hand, sparks flew, and the tunnel plunged into darkness. Jake, Zara's voice came out of the darkness, tight with pain. What happened? The power coupling. It exploded. I think I am injured. I fumbled for my emergency light and found her pressed against the tunnel wall, her left wing twisted at an unnatural angle. Golden fluid that I assumed was Klaxon blood was seeping through her feathers. How bad is it? I cannot move my wing. And I am feeling dizzy. I looked at the remaining door controllers, then at Zara, and made a decision that would have gotten me fired under normal circumstances. We're going back. No, she said firmly. The remaining people will have to wait. You're hurt, and I'm not leaving you in here. You cannot carry me and complete the mission. Watch me. Me. It took us twice as long to get back, with me half carrying Zara through the tunnels while she protested that she was fine and I should continue the mission. By the time we emerged into the emergency bay, she was barely conscious and I was exhausted. Medical team to emergency bay 4. I called out as I helped her to a maintenance platform. The doors, she whispered. The people. Torres, I called to the commander. We got 4 of the 7 doors open. The other 3 are going to have to wait. Understood, Torres replied. Good work, both of you. I looked down at Zara, who was trying to sit up despite her injuries. Rest, I said. You've done enough. I have failed, she said quietly. In Klaxon society, failure is not tolerated. Then it's a good thing you're not in Klaxon society right now, I said. You're on a human station, where we measure success by how many people are still breathing at the end of the day. The medical bay on Nexus Station was designed with 17 different species in mind, which meant it looked like someone had crossed a hospital with an alien zoo and added too many buttons. Dr. Yena Korvax, the station's chief medical officer, was a healer-class Altarian who took her job seriously and her bedside manner from a textbook written by robots. The Klaxon will recover, she announced in the tone of someone discussing the weather. The wing injury is superficial, but she has experienced significant stress-related physiological dysfunction. In human terms, please, I said. She had a panic attack. Her body is shutting down from exhaustion and psychological trauma. I looked through the medical bay's transparent aluminum window at Zara, who was lying on a biobed designed for her species. Her feathers had lost their usual luster and had faded to a dull gray color that somehow made her look smaller and more vulnerable. When can I talk to her? She is conscious now, but I would recommend limiting interaction. The psychological profile indicates she may be experiencing shame-based depression common to her species. Great. An alien having an existential crisis in a medical bay that smelled like disinfectant and recycled air. Just what I needed to cap off a perfectly normal day of preventing everyone from suffocating. I went in anyway. Hey, I said, settling into the chair beside her bed. How are you feeling? She turned to look at me, and I was struck by how different she looked. The proud, confident alien who'd strutted into my workspace that morning was gone, replaced by someone who looked like she'd lost everything that mattered. I have brought dishonor to my family, she said quietly. By getting injured while saving people's lives? By failing to complete the mission? By requiring rescue? By showing weakness? She closed her eyes. My people value strength above all else. Perfect physical form, perfect mental discipline, perfect execution of duty. I have failed in all 3. I leaned back in my chair. You know what I was doing when I lost my leg? She opened her eyes and looked at me with mild curiosity. I was 19 years old, fresh out of engineering school, and convinced I was the smartest person in the galaxy. I was working on a shuttle engine that everyone told me was too dangerous to repair. I knew better, of course. I had theories, plans, and enough ego to power a small ship. What happened? The engine exploded, took my leg and nearly killed me. Spent 3 months in a medical facility while they grew me a new leg and explained that my theories were wrong, my plans were stupid, and my ego was going to get me killed. But you continued as an engineer. Yeah, but I was a different kind of engineer after that. Before the accident, I thought engineering was about being the smartest person in the room. After I learned it was about making things work, even when they shouldn't. Especially when they shouldn't. She was quiet for a long moment. Your species is strange. You celebrate your failures. We don't celebrate them. We learn from them. There's a difference. In Klaxon society, physical imperfection is a sign of weakness. Those who cannot maintain their bodies are considered unfit for service. That's stupid. She actually smiled at that. It is how we have survived for millennia. Only the strong reproduce. Only the perfect serve in positions of responsibility. And what happens to the imperfect ones? Her smile faded. They are relocated to colonies where they can live quietly without bringing shame to their families. That's when it clicked. The way she'd been moving during our tunnel crawl, the subtle favoring of her right side, the careful way she positioned herself when she thought no one was looking. You're not just hurt from today, are you? She closed her eyes again. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with Craig syndrome. It is a degenerative condition that affects our motor functions. Progressive muscle weakness, loss of coordination, eventual paralysis. And your people? Are unaware. I have been hiding it, using stimulants and pain suppressors to maintain the appearance of health. But it is getting worse. What happens when they find out? I will be stripped of my position, my citizenship, and my family name. I will be sent to a colony world where I can live out my remaining years in obscurity. I sat there for a moment, processing this. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and I once watched someone try to fix a fusion reactor with a hammer. It is our way. Your way is wrong. She opened her eyes and looked at me with something that might have been hope. Humans do not exile their imperfect. Humans don't have perfect people to exile. We're all broken in different ways. The trick is finding people whose broken parts fit with your broken parts. I do not understand. Look at today. You couldn't reach the door controllers because of the confined space. I couldn't navigate the Klaxon systems because I don't understand the interfaces. Together we saved lives. Apart we would have failed. But I am becoming weaker. Soon I will not be able to help anyone. So we'll find new ways for you to help. Engineering isn't just about crawling through tunnels. It's about solving problems, and your brain works just fine. She was quiet for a long time, and I thought she might have fallen asleep. Then she spoke so quietly I almost missed it. I am frightened. Of what? Of losing everything I am. My identity, my purpose, my place in the universe. I do not know how to be anything other than what I have always been. You don't have to know right now. You just have to be willing to figure it out. I do not know how. That's okay. I do. The next morning, I found myself doing something I'd never done in my 5 years on Nexus Station. I was having breakfast with an alien. Not just any alien, mind you, but the same alien who'd told me less than 24 hours ago that she didn't work with humans. Zara was picking at something that looked like colorful gravel but was apparently a Klaxon breakfast cereal. Her feathers were still dull gray, and she moved with the careful precision of someone trying not to show weakness. The atmospheric system is holding, she said, making conversation. Your improvised network is functioning within acceptable parameters. Amazing what you can accomplish when you stop worrying about doing things the right way and start focusing on doing things the working way. She almost smiled at that. Is that a human philosophy? It's a Jake philosophy. Humans actually have a disturbing tendency to overcomplicate things just as much as any other species. We just do it with different materials. Speaking of materials, she said, hesitating slightly, I have been thinking about our conversation yesterday, about finding new ways to help. Yeah? Was a Newton Porks. I have been researching human prosthetic technology. It is crude but effective. Very different from klaxon approaches. I looked down at my leg, which was making its usual faint clicking noise. Crude is a nice way of putting it. We basically took the concept of replacement part and ran with it. Nothing fancy, just functional. But it works. You do not seem limited by it. Some days I am, some days I'm not. Depends on what I'm doing and whether the weather's going to mess with the joint calibration. She was quiet for a moment, studying me with those golden eyes. Would you show me how it works? I raised an eyebrow. You want a technical demonstration of my fake leg? I want to understand how humans adapt to physical limitations. There was something in her tone that made me look at her more carefully. This isn't just academic curiosity, is it? No, she said quietly. It is not. I finished my coffee and stood up. Come on, let's go back to my workshop. I'll show you how the magic happens. Back in Bay 7, I settled into my work chair and rolled up my pants leg to expose the prosthetic interface. It wasn't pretty, all metal and synthetic materials, but it had kept me walking for 5 years. The connection point is here, I said, pointing to where the prosthetic attached to my residual limb. Neural interface picks up electrical signals from my muscles and translates them into movement commands. It responds to your thoughts. Sort of. More like it responds to the electrical signals my brain sends to muscles that aren't there anymore. The prosthetic interprets those signals and moves accordingly. She leaned in closer, studying the interface with professional interest. The response time must be significant. About 0.2 seconds. Not perfect, but close enough for most activities. What about balance? Spatial awareness? That's the tricky part. The prosthetic has sensors that provide feedback, but it's not the same as having actual nerves. I had to relearn how to walk, how to distribute weight, how to trust the artificial limb. And you did this alone? I had help from physical therapists, but ultimately, yeah. Learning to live with it was something I had to figure out myself. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could practically see the gears turning in her head. Jake, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. My condition. It is progressing faster than I anticipated. This morning I could barely flex my left wing. By next week I may not be able to use it at all. Okay, I said carefully. What do you need? I do not know. In klaxon society there is no provision for partial disability. You are either fully functional or you are not. But you're not in klaxon society right now. No, I am not. She looked at me with something that might have been hope. Could human prosthetic technology work for klaxon physiology? I thought about it. It would require significant modifications. Your wing structure is completely different from human limbs. The neural pathways, the muscle groups, the range of motion required. But it could be done? Maybe. It would be experimental, jury-rigged, and probably look weird as hell. Would it be functional? That depends on what you mean by functional. It wouldn't be perfect. It wouldn't be invisible. It definitely wouldn't meet klaxon standards for physical perfection. But I could still work? Still contribute? If it worked, yeah, you could still work. She was quiet for a long time, and I could see her struggling with something. Jake, I cannot ask this of you. You haven't asked anything yet. I cannot return to Klaxon space. If I do, they will discover my condition and exile me. But I cannot remain here without documentation, without a purpose. So what do you want to do? I want to stay. I want to continue working. I want to prove that I can still be useful, even if I am not perfect. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is that I need help and I have no way to repay you for it. I looked at her, sitting in my workshop looking lost and vulnerable and trying so hard to maintain her dignity. And then I did something that surprised both of us. I reached down and started disconnecting my prosthetic leg. What are you doing? Menschis me. I'm giving you a head start, I said, wincing as the neural interface disengaged. This thing has been with me for 5 years. It's not perfect, but it's reliable. Consider it a loan while we figure out how to build you something better. I cannot accept this. You're not accepting it. You're borrowing it. There's a difference, but you need it. I need it, but I don't need it right now. I can get around the workshop just fine without it. And you need to start somewhere. I pulled the prosthetic free and held it out to her. It's not going to fit properly. The neural interface will need to be completely recalibrated for your physiology, and it's probably going to take weeks to get it working right. But it's a start. She stared at the prosthetic like I'd just handed her a piece of alien technology, which, from her perspective, I guess I had. Why? She asked quietly. Because sometimes helping people is more important than following the rules. Because you risked your life to save strangers yesterday. Because everyone deserves a chance to prove they're more than their limitations. She reached out and took the prosthetic with shaking hands. I do not know how to repay this kindness. You don't repay it. You pay it forward. Someday, when you're back on your feet, you help someone else who needs it. That's when she started crying. Not the subtle, dignified tears you might expect from an advanced alien species, but full-on, ugly, grateful sobs that shook her entire body. Hey, I said, suddenly awkward. It's okay. It's going to be okay. She looked up at me through her tears. No one has ever, my own people would never. Your people don't know what they're missing, I said. Besides, crying is perfectly normal. Hell, I cried for a week when I first got my prosthetic. It's a big change. In Klaxon society, emotional displays are considered weakness. Well, it's a good thing we're not in Klaxon society. I handed her a work towel. Here, clean up. We've got work to do. Work? Yeah, this thing isn't going to modify itself. And I'm going to need your help to figure out how to make it work with Klaxon physiology. She wiped her eyes and looked at the prosthetic in her hands. You truly believe this can work? I believe that between your knowledge of Klaxon biology and my experience with jury-rigged solutions, we can make something work. It might not be pretty, but it'll be functional. And if it fails, then we try again. That's how engineering works. You build something, test it, watch it fail, figure out why it failed, and build something better. She nodded slowly. I think I can learn to accept that philosophy. Good, I said, grabbing my crutches from the corner of the workshop. Because you're about to get a crash course in human problem-solving techniques. 3 weeks later, I was back in Bay 7, supposedly fixing a Rigelian food processor, but actually watching Zara work. She'd set up a workstation in the corner of my shop, and what had started as a temporary arrangement was looking more permanent by the day. The prosthetic had been a challenge, no doubt about it. Klaxon wing joints moved in ways that human legs definitely didn't, and the neural interface had required complete rewiring to work with her physiology. But we'd figured it out, one problem at a time. Jake, she called from her workstation. The servo response is still 0.3 seconds too slow. Did you try adjusting the feedback loop? Obviously. The issue is with the base calibration matrix. I hobbled over on my backup prosthetic, an older model that clicked more and complained about the humidity. Show me. Whoa. The modified prosthetic was a thing of beauty if your definition of beauty included exposed circuitry, mismatched components, and a color scheme that could charitably be called industrial accident. But it worked. More importantly, it worked for Zara. The neural pathways are adapting faster than expected, she said, flexing the artificial wing. But the fine motor control is still imprecise. That'll improve with time. It took me 6 months to trust my prosthetic enough to run with it. You can run with it? Well, I can move faster than a walk without falling over. It's not exactly Olympic material, but it gets the job done. She smiled at that. Over the past 3 weeks, she'd been smiling more. Her feathers had returned to their normal colors, shifting through the spectrum based on her mood. Right now, they were a warm golden hue that I'd learned meant contentment. Commander Torres wants to see us, she said, saving her work and powering down the prosthetic interface. Both of us. Both of us. He was quite specific. We made our way to the command center, where Torres was reviewing efficiency reports with the enthusiasm of someone who'd rather be anywhere else. He looked up when we entered. Martinez, Vex. Good timing. I've got news. Good news or bad news? I asked. Depends on your perspective. The Galactic Engineering Council has heard about your atmospheric system improvisation. They want to offer you both positions on their emergency response team. I looked at Zara, who looked equally surprised. The Galactic Engineering Council wants to hire us. Apparently jury-rigged solutions that actually work are in high demand. Who knew? Torres grinned. The offer includes full citizenship documentation for Vex, standard council benefits, and a salary that's approximately 4 times what you're making now. There's a catch, Zara said. It wasn't a question. The catch is that you'd be traveling constantly. Emergency response means going wherever the crisis is whenever it happens. Could be anywhere in the galaxy. I considered this. And if we say no? Then you keep your current jobs, current pay, and current lives. No pressure either way. Zara and I exchanged glances. Can we think about it? Take all the time you need. Just let me know by next week. We left the command center in thoughtful silence. It wasn't until we were back in Bay 7 that Zara spoke. You are considering it. Maybe. Are you? I do not know. A year ago, I would have accepted immediately. Status, recognition, the chance to prove my worth to the galaxy. And now, why you? She gestured around the workshop. Now I have a place where I belong, work that matters. A partner who accepts my limitations without judgment. Partner? When? Is that not the correct term? We work together, we solve problems together, we have become friends? I thought about it. Yeah, I guess we have. The council position would be prestigious, but it would also mean leaving behind everything we have built here. We could build something new, or we could improve what we already have. That's when the comm system crackled to life. All technicians to Emergency Bay 4. We have a situation. Zara and I looked at each other and grinned. Duty calls, I said. Indeed it does. We gathered our tools and headed for the emergency bay, where a new crisis was undoubtedly waiting to be solved with improvised solutions and creative problem-solving. As we walked, I noticed that Zara's prosthetic wing was moving more naturally than it had even a week ago. You know, I said, whatever we decide about the council job, we make a pretty good team. We do, she agreed, though I still think your engineering methods are primitive. And I still think your people are crazy for valuing perfection over functionality. Perhaps we can agree that both approaches have merit. Look at that. Growth and compromise. We're practically civilized. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Do not let it go to your head, Jake Martinez. Too late. I'm already planning to put civilized on my business cards. We arrived at the emergency bay to find the usual controlled chaos. Another crisis, another opportunity to prove that sometimes the best solutions come from the most unexpected places. As we dove into the problem, I couldn't help but think that whether we stayed on Nexus Station or joined the Galactic Engineering Council, we'd be doing exactly what we were meant to do, fixing things that shouldn't work, helping people who needed it. And proving that being different doesn't make you less valuable. It makes you essential. Jake, Zara called from across the bay. I need your opinion on something. What's that? What's that? How do you feel about the name Martinez and Vex Engineering Solutions? I considered it. I think it has a nice ring to it. Very professional. Good. Because I have already designed business cards. Of course you have. But, and as we worked side by side, human and alien original parts and prosthetic replacements, I realized that sometimes the best partnerships are the ones that happen when you're not looking for them. Sometimes the most important discoveries come from the most unlikely places. Sometimes the future is built not by the perfect, but by the broken pieces that learn to fit together. Hey Zara, I said as we tackled our latest impossible problem. Yes. Thanks for not working with humans. What do you mean? If you'd been willing to work with humans from the start, we never would have had that fight, you never would have needed my help, and we never would have become friends. She paused in her work to look at me. Are you suggesting that my prejudice was beneficial? I'm suggesting that sometimes the best things come from the worst situations. It's very human philosophy. Then perhaps, she said, her feathers shifting to a warm blue that meant affection, I am becoming more human. Don't let that go to your head, I said, echoing her earlier words. We've got a reputation to maintain. What reputation is that? Best damn jury-rigged engineering team in the galaxy. I can accept that designation. Good. Now help me figure out why this quantum manifold is trying to achieve sentience. That is not possible. Quantum manifolds cannot achieve sentience. Tell that to the manifold. It just asked me about the meaning of life. She looked at the device in question, which was indeed displaying what appeared to be a philosophical query on its status screen. That is concerning. Welcome to human engineering, I said, where the impossible is just another day at the office. And somewhere in the distance I could swear I heard the universe laughing.